So how certain is this?
There's 100% certainty.
Call it 70% and let's move on.
I know.
Meryl Streep doesn't fight. She doesn't feud.
Meryl Streep doesn't fight, doesn't feud, and never needs to. Because when you've built a legacy on art rather than attention, silence itself becomes the sharpest weapon. For decades, she has embodied the gold standard in Hollywood, a masterclass in restraint, complexity, and purpose. Blake Lively, by contrast, has mastered the art of image, polished photo ops, curated statements, and the performance of authenticity. On paper, these two women could not be more different, yet when their paths crossed in late 2022 during the early development of a now-shelved Netflix project, what unfolded behind closed doors defied expectations. What began as a promising collaboration morphed into a quiet war, not waged on social media, but in the hushed corners of boardrooms, press briefings, and last-minute script rewrites. And now, with Blake embroiled in lawsuits and mounting public backlash in 2025, Meryl's deliberate silence speaks louder than words, echoing like a scream across an industry watching it all unravel.
One of the most critical sort of fashion moments of Gossip Girl.
In late 2022, a project quietly greenlit by
In late 2022, Netflix quietly greenlit a project that was already generating Oscar buzz before it even carried a title, a character-driven psychological drama about a former war journalist grappling with the moral weight of untold stories. The role was dark, layered, and morally complex, and from the very beginning, one name had been tied to it: Meryl Streep. The script came from a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright. The director was a rising talent fresh off a breakthrough, and the studio envisioned a dual lead structure, Meryl as the seasoned voice opposite a younger, emotionally fragile protege played by Blake Lively. At least, that was the plan. But then things began to shift. Marketing decks were quietly revised, Blake's team grew more involved, and within weeks, the project no longer looked like Meryl's at all. The turning point came when Film Daily tweeted a blunt critique. Why are we pretending a Netflix campaign is prestige just because they slapped Blake Lively on top of it? That script was written for Meryl.
Well, I'm not the type of actor who can, act without producing.
By early 2023, Blake Lively's team had secured her a producer credit, and while Meryl Streep didn't initially object, having shared projects with co-leads before, something about this arrangement felt different. According to a Netflix development insider, the tone of the entire film shifted. What began as a raw meditation on grief, silence, and the moral weight of war morphed into a polished redemption arc tailored to Blake's PR-friendly image. The older character, once the emotional core, was stripped of her complexity, while the narrative spotlighted the young lead's healing journey. Soon after, Netflix cited a scheduling conflict to explain Meryl's quiet exit, but industry whispers suggested something else entirely. Blake hadn't just reworked the script, she had erased the artistry that defined it. As one viral tweet bluntly put it, they turned a Streep masterclass into a Blake Lively Instagram caption. This is actually insane.
And the Oscar goes to Meryl Streep, the Iron Lady.
Meryl Streep in Kramer versus Kramer.
Marvelous Meryl Streep.
I don't normally wear feather numbers with cashmere sweatshirts at whatever time it is.
And you do all of your own.
A few months later, Netflix rolled out its official For Your Consideration campaign, and the shift was unmistakable. Meryl Streep's name was nowhere to be found. The press kits were all Blake. The tagline read, "One woman's journey to reclaim her story," and the film's gritty origins had been replaced with glossy branding. According to a former Netflix marketing staffer, the strategy was clear: turn Blake into an awards season heavyweight. But as insiders noted, you can't manufacture gravity. One viral tweet summed up the frustration perfectly. Blake Lively chasing an Oscar with a role she sculpted around herself is wild. You know who would have eaten this alive? Meryl.
All Berliners were all Africans, really.
Just as Blake Lively's Netflix campaign was gaining traction, another subtle PR maneuver raised industry eyebrows. In early 2023, Meryl Streep had quietly been in talks with Chanel for a legacy campaign, with the brand hinting at timeless icons in its press materials. Weeks earlier, Streep had even worn a vintage Chanel gown at the Berlin Film Festival, fueling speculation of an imminent partnership. But then came silence, until Blake suddenly appeared as the surprise face of Chanel's Fall 2023 Women in Cinema campaign. Same collection, same creative director, but a very different face. According to insiders, Blake's team pitched a sweeping multi-platform deal that tied together the Netflix film, the fashion campaign, and her own wellness brand in exchange for exclusivity. Meryl never addressed it directly, but in a rare press interaction, when asked if Chanel had approached her, she simply replied, "I don't do campaigns. I tell stories." One Velvet Rope source summed up the shift with a sting. Blake swooping in on Chanel was bold. But telling Meryl's story without Meryl? That's another level.
Hi, Nick. Did anyone notice that Anne Roth also? I am really, truly honored to receive an award.
Months later, Meryl Streep finally, though subtly, addressed the situation in public. During a Directors Guild panel on storytelling and the rise of streaming, the conversation shifted toward performance versus PR visibility. That's when Meryl delivered a line that stopped the room cold. There's a strange shift happening where influence seems to matter more than instinct. Where the question is no longer, can you disappear into the character, but will the audience still see you? She never mentioned names. She didn't have to. Within hours, the clip was everywhere, dissected by TikTok creators and awards blogs alike. Headlines asked, "Is Meryl Streep calling out PR-driven performances?" And one viral tweet put it best. Meryl Streep said more in one sentence than an entire PR team says in 6 months, and we all know exactly who she meant.
Almost.
You having weird
You
cravings?
almost
Almost,
brought
because
me-
I wasn't
No,
sure what you'd be
almost is
craving.
nonsense.
That's
Can
not
I tell
good
you,
enough.
It's amazing how much you can get if you quietly, clearly, and
While the public was still busy dissecting panel soundbites and red carpet moments, something far more damaging began circulating quietly within industry circles, a leaked audio clip from an internal Netflix feedback session. Never meant for public release, the recording allegedly captured a senior script supervisor dissecting the project's trajectory. This was supposed to be about silence, guilt, the kind of pain that doesn't want to be seen. But after the rewrites, it's just a spotlight vehicle. It lost its teeth. The voice went further, adding, "Streep left because she saw what it was becoming. She saw it before the rest of us." Initially shared on a private Discord server for film crew professionals, the clip quickly found its way to Reddit before vanishing from most platforms within 48 hours. But not before someone transcribed it. One viral tweet summed up the fallout. "The gray audio confirms what we knew. Meryl dipped the second Blake reshaped the narrative around herself."
back in 1965, I was a 14-year-old freshman in high school in Bernardsville, New Jersey.
Up until this point, Meryl had largely avoided the press, but that changed with the New York Public Cinema Honors Gala, an event dedicated to celebrating storytelling across generations. Announced as a last-minute honoree, she stepped in quietly while Blake, who was reportedly scheduled to attend on Netflix's behalf, never showed, a detail that didn't go unnoticed. Meryl arrived in a simple black gown, no stylist tags or corporate sponsorships, just presence. Her acceptance speech lasted under 4 minutes, but one line reverberated across the room. "I don't believe in rebranding stories for mass appeal. I believe in telling them truthfully, even if that truth makes us uncomfortable." The audience erupted in applause, some rising to their feet, though Netflix's representative in the front row notably did not. Later, Cine Snob Reel tweeted, "Meryl accepting an award Blake was supposed to present. That's what you call cinematic justice."
Oh my gosh, there's so much fire. There's so much fire. No, it's for sure friendly.
Days after the gala, Blake's team pushed out a press statement through a third-party outlet. Blake Lively remains proud of the work she's done both in front of and behind the camera and supports the voices of every woman in this industry. It was vague, sterile, and crafted to say nothing at all. Fans weren't impressed, and critics were merciless. A popular film commentary YouTuber dropped a 12-minute breakdown titled, "When You Rewrite a Role for Yourself: The Rise and Fall of PR Acting," which racked up 2.1 million views in just 4 days. Critique Culture summed it up bluntly. Blake's statement had AI apology energy, no ownership, no accountability, no point.
I just really loved those patchwork jeans that you have.
Magnolia Pearl.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Meryl had already moved forward, debuting a stage production at New York's Public Theater drawn from the journals of war correspondence, uncannily close in tone to the original Netflix concept. The show was raw, stripped of gloss, and achingly emotional, earning glowing reviews from critics and audiences alike. But it wasn't until a reporter pressed her on the parallels between the play and her quiet departure from the film that Meryl delivered a single, cutting line. "Sometimes you have to leave something behind to remind people who built it in the first place." She never named Blake, but in one sentence she reclaimed the narrative. As Stage Whispers New York tweeted, "Meryl doesn't clap back, she redefines." By early 2024, Blake's team was still clinging to In the Grey's dwindling potential. Netflix had quietly stepped back, yet her reps continued shopping the campaign independently, feeding lifestyle and fashion outlets narratives about her creative evolution and producer-driven performance arc. One headline in Viva Vogue even declared, "Blake lively on taking the reins. I wanted to tell this story my way." But the strategy quickly unraveled. The Academy didn't bite. Critics dismissed the final cut as hollow, and without Meryl's gravitas, the film lacked depth and nuance. Stripped of subtlety, In the Grey slid through award season, without a single major nomination. As Oscar WatchBot summed up, Blake's campaign was engineered to the decimal, but voters can smell the difference between performance and presence.
What time did you leave Monte Carlo yesterday?
I think it was about.
Sorry, did you want any starters?
While In the Grey collapsed, Blake still had one card to play, her brand deals. Chanel had heavily invested in her image, pitching her as a fusion of timeless power and modern energy. But when the campaign aired during the SAG Awards, the reception was disastrous. The poetic, cinematic visual style synonymous with Chanel was replaced with glossy, overproduced shots of Blake posing beside vintage typewriters and staged film props. Social media tore it apart. One critic on X wrote, "This feels like a knockoff Dior campaign, with none of the grit." Days later, Chanel released its next season teaser, featuring a new face, Cate Blanchett. Blake was quietly erased from the follow-up promos with no explanation. Fashion Leak Intel confirmed the soft drop, adding, "Chanel pivoted mid-contract. Blanchett's in, Blake's out." That's how the industry moves.
Blake could be married for...
Oh God, don't do this to me. 4 years.
By spring 2024, the conversation around Blake Lively had shifted from a failed Oscar campaign to a full-blown reassessment of her image. The spark? Court proceedings tied to Justin Baldoni and a leaked dispute over contract manipulation involving Blake's production company finally hit the public record. What once looked like ambition now read as a pattern, her repeated tendency to insert herself into projects and reshape them, In the Grey being the prime example. Then came Ryan Reynolds' podcast appearance, where a single cryptic line fueled the fire. Asked about creative interference in Hollywood, he replied, "Sometimes silence is complicity, and sometimes staying out of it is the only way to protect yourself." The hosts moved on, but fans didn't. Real Talk Pod summed it up. That wasn't about Hollywood politics. That man is living inside a PR avalanche.
1965, I was a 14-year-old freshman in high school in Bernardsville, New Jersey.
Then came Cannes 2024, where Meryl Streep arrived not to promote a film but to present the Legacy in Cinema Award. The press expected a graceful tribute, a ceremonial moment. Instead, she delivered what felt like a final word on the Blake Lively controversy without ever speaking her name. On stage, her voice steady and deliberate, Meryl declared, "I've watched stories stripped of truth, edited into self-promotion, repackaged for trending headlines, and I've stayed quiet. But we owe more to the women watching from outside this room. Tell the story, not the brand. The line echoed through the Palais, drawing a standing ovation. Within hours, the clip went viral across TikTok and X. Even actors who had collaborated with Blake reposted it silently, no captions needed. Actress Ollie X summed it up best. Meryl just walked into Cannes and reminded everyone why she built this industry.
For me, what was really important for the character was that you understood she was like a walking, talking.
After Meryl's speech, something subtle but unmistakable began to happen. Hollywood stopped calling Blake lively. According to an agency coordinator at a top talent firm, there was no official blacklist, no memo passed around, but casting calls that once went straight to Blake's reps simply stopped arriving. Directors quietly picked other names for prestige dramas. Studios backed away from Blake-led pitches. Streamers shifted focus to safe bets, legacy actresses with clean reputations and no PR-engineered baggage. On Instagram, Blake's team kept the facade alive with lifestyle content and polished posts, but behind the curtain, she was being erased from conversations that used to be automatic. The actress who tried to reshape her image in Meryl's shadow was now watching that shadow swallow her whole. Casting League Hub nailed it in one post. Know who is supposed to lead that A24 script Blake's team pushed? They passed quietly, said they wanted someone with less baggage.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
While Blake's spotlight dimmed, Meryl Streep was quietly preparing her next move, a raw psychological drama greenlit by A24, slated to film in late 2025. Built around grief, forgiveness, and buried truths, the script called for two women to carry the weight of the story. The real shock wasn't the project itself, but Meryl's choice of co-star, Florence Pugh, one of Blake Lively's most visible frenemies, and a rising star known for raw, grounded performances and a refusal to play Hollywood's fake friendship games. The announcement was stripped of theatrics, just the film's title and a grainy black and white Polaroid of Meryl and Florence sitting side by side on folding chairs. No glam squads, no hashtags, just a caption that read, "Real work doesn't need permission." Florence updates capture the moment perfectly. Florence and Meryl doing a two-hander drama while Blake launches another smoothie collab. That's the shift. By mid-2025, even Blake's most loyal fan pages had grown quieter, fewer edits, fewer reposts, less noise. The frenzy that once met every red carpet photo or soundbite had become a trickle, summed up best by one Reddit post. You don't erase Meryl Streep. You just try and fail quietly. Industry blogs echoed the sentiment. Old Hollywood Reels wrote, "No headlines, no lawsuits, no callouts, just a masterclass in quiet removal. Meryl is the blueprint." In August 2025, nearly 2 years after she walked away from In the Grey, Meryl gave a rare in-depth interview to a European arts publication titled Staying Power, What Meryl Streep Knows That Hollywood Forgot. Asked what happens when a story no longer reflects the truth, she paused before replying. Then it's no longer a story. It's branding. And branding can be profitable, but it can't be profound. That single quote ricocheted across the industry. Printed on tote bags by a feminist film collective in Paris, reposted without caption by both Florence Pugh and Jennifer Lawrence, framed on the walls of independent theaters, and debated endlessly on film podcasts. By then, Blake's machine had pivoted completely. No film buzz, no serious roles, only lifestyle launches, curated influencer spreads, and vague statements about a new chapter. But the chapter Meryl wrote was still being read. As indie film ghosts summarized, Blake built a brand. Meryl built a standard. One fades. The other stays.
Long and wide.
In October, during a low-key private screening of The Streep, Pugh film at a small indie theater in Brooklyn, a blurry photo surfaced online. It showed Meryl in the back row, bare-faced, Florence beside her in a hoodie, no red carpet, no flashbulbs, just two women quietly watching their own work. Someone uploaded it to X with a caption that instantly went viral. "You can't fake this." Another user added, "That photo of Meryl and Florence sitting in silence while their film plays, that's the kind of storytelling Blake Lively will never touch." And that was the point. Meryl Streep didn't need to expose Blake with threads, give tearful interviews, or fight her way into a project. She simply told the story, and the story carried everything else. But those who thought Blake's unraveling stopped there were mistaken. Because whispers were already spreading about what Jennifer Lawrence had quietly revealed in closed circles and how Gal Gadot had warned the industry long before.